one tournament, 3 countries, 16 cities, and the loudest football crowd the world has ever seen. This isn't a fantasy. This is the FIFA World Cup 2026, and it's already rewriting history before a single final whistle blows. But how did we get here? How do you take the most watched sporting event on the planet and make it even bigger? Why did FIFA choose 3 nations instead of 1? And what does it actually feel like on the ground in the stadiums across thousands of miles of continent? That's exactly what we're going to break down today. So settle in, because this story goes far deeper than you think. The FIFA World Cup has been running since 1930, nearly a century of football, nearly a century of one nation, one tournament, one host. Brazil hosted it. Germany hosted it. South Africa, Russia, Qatar, one country, one stage, one identity. But 2026 changed the rules entirely. For the first time in World Cup history, 3 sovereign nations are sharing the hosting duties. The United States of America, Canada and Mexico. 3 countries, one dream. And a tournament so massive that no single nation could contain it alone. Now, before you think this is just a logistical flex, there is a deep, powerful story behind why this happened. A story about football politics, about growing the game, about money, about legacy, and about what football means to an entire continent that the world has sometimes overlooked. Let's go back to the beginning. It was 2018. FIFA was preparing to vote on who would host the 2026 World Cup. 2 bids were on the table. On one side, Morocco, a passionate football nation, making their 5th attempt to host a World Cup, backed by African pride, historical significance, and a genuine love for the game. On the other side, a joint bid. The United Bid, they called it. USA, Canada, and Mexico standing together, presenting a combined vision of stadiums already built, infrastructure already in place, and a market so commercially powerful that FIFA's wallet could barely contain its excitement. On June 13, 2018, FIFA voted. The United Bid won, 134 votes to 65, and just like that, North America had the World Cup. But this wasn't simply about who had the better stadiums. This was a statement. Football was coming to conquer its last great frontier, a continent where the sport had always fought for attention against American football, basketball, and baseball. The World Cup 2026 wasn't just a tournament, it was a mission. So how does it actually work? How do you run a World Cup across 3 countries? Let's break it down simply. The United States is the main host. They hold the majority of matches, with 11 host cities across the country. From the iconic MetLife Stadium in New York and New Jersey, to AT&T Stadium in Dallas, to SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, to Levi's Stadium in San Francisco, the USA is bringing the grand stage. Canada contributes 2 host cities, Toronto and Vancouver. Both cities with growing football cultures, both cities with passionate immigrant communities from football-mad nations around the world. And Mexico, the historic heart of North American football, brings 2 legendary venues. The famous Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, one of the most iconic football grounds on earth, and the Estadio Akron in Guadalajara, in total 16 cities, across 3 time zones, spanning thousands of kilometers of terrain. The tournament kicked off on June 11, 2026, with a historic opener at the Estadio Azteca, Mexico versus South Africa, an image that will live in football history forever. Let's pause here for a moment, because the Estadio Azteca deserves its own chapter. This stadium has seen things most football grounds only dream of. It was here, in 1970, that Brazil lifted the Jules Rimet Trophy for the 3rd time, earning the right to keep it forever. It was here in 1986 that Diego Maradona delivered what is still considered the greatest individual World Cup performance in history, scoring both the infamous hand of God goal and the goal of the century against England in the same match. 2 moments, 1 stadium, decades apart, both legendary. And now in 2026, the Azteca adds another chapter, hosting the opening match of the biggest World Cup in history. A stadium with 87,000 seats roaring for the beautiful game. There are only a handful of places on Earth where football history lives in the walls. The Azteca is one of them. Now here's something you need to understand about this tournament that makes it truly unlike anything before it. For decades, since 1998, The World Cup had 32 teams, 32 nations, 64 matches, hard-tight, perfectly engineered competition. In 26 broke that entirely. For the first time ever, 48 nations are competing. 16 more teams than any previous World Cup, organized into 12 groups of 4, with the top 2 from each group advancing, plus the 8 best third place finishers. That creates a round of 32, a completely new knockout stage that football has never seen before. What does this mean in real terms? It means more nations have a chance, more stories, more upsets, more first-time qualifiers experiencing the World Cup stage for the first time in their history. We already saw it. Curaçao, a small island nation in the Caribbean with a population of around 150,000 people, scored a goal against Germany at this World Cup. One goal, in front of a global audience of hundreds of millions, and that single moment of joy meant everything. That is what expansion does. It creates moments that no algorithm could predict and no script could write. There is something else happening at this World Cup that goes beyond football entirely. North America is the most culturally diverse region on the planet. The United States alone is home to millions of immigrants from every football nation you can name. Mexico, Brazil, Nigeria, Italy, India, the Philippines, Poland, Colombia, South Korea. For those communities, this World Cup is personal. When Mexico plays, the streets of Los Angeles erupt. When Brazil plays, communities in Toronto overflow with yellow and green. When South Korea plays, entire neighborhoods in New York and Vancouver come alive. This is what makes the 2026 World Cup different from any hosted in Europe or the Middle East. The fans are already there, living in the host cities, rooting for their nations from their own backyards. The stadiums aren't just full. They are electric with identity, with culture, with belonging. Football has always been the world's game. But at the 2026 World Cup, the world is playing at home. Here are some facts about this World Cup that will genuinely surprise you. The MetLife Stadium in New Jersey is set to host the final, making it the largest stadium ever to host a World Cup final. With a capacity of over 82,000 seats, Mexico is the only nation to have hosted the World Cup 3 times, 1970, 1986, and now co-hosting in 2026. No other country comes close to that record. The 2026 tournament features 104 matches in total, compared to just 64 in previous 32-team editions. That is 40 additional games of football, 40 more stories, 40 more chances for history. And the prize money? FIFA announced a total prize pool of $1 billion for this edition. $1 billion. The winning nation takes home $125 million alone. Football has officially become the biggest business in sport. So why does all of this matter beyond the statistics? Because football is more than a sport. It has always been more than a sport. It is the language that breaks through borders. It is the thing that makes a child in a small village in Morocco and a child in a suburb of Toronto feel connected, because they both stayed up late, watching the same match, celebrating the same goal, feeling the same heartbreak. The 2026 World Cup matters because it is bringing that feeling to a continent that has 400 million passionate football fans who have waited their entire lives to feel the World Cup in their own backyard. Not on a screen, not in a different time zone, right there, in their city, in their stadium. That is rare, that is powerful, and that is the kind of thing that creates football fans for a generation. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is not just the biggest tournament ever staged. It is a cultural moment, a historical turning point, a celebration of what football can do when it truly opens its arms to the entire world. 3 countries, 16 cities, 48 nations, $1 billion, and billions of hearts watching. The beautiful game has never looked quite like this before. And honestly, we are all lucky to be alive to watch it.